And I'm like, no,
yeah, I'm looking for paddles. Oh, I'm glad you do. I do exactly the same thing.
Because the one where you hold it and it fully stops the car.
Yes,
it's so good, and
it's such a clever thing. Yeah, no, I think
it's frustrating in many ways that the Tesla doesn't do it.
Yeah,
I think the newer motors can do more of that, but not quite. Obviously, with that, no paddles yet.
Yeah, but, no, I love a good paddle because it was the. What was the first time I found that? And I just went bananas. It was in it's another Hyundai. What's it called? No, the Ioniq. Yeah, the Ioniq, which is also a great little car. But I went down. Oh, look, someone said paddles.
Oh, yes, paddles. Yeah. So we are live, everyone. We're going to start in about 5 minutes' time, but we just thought we'd get people on board and go from there.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, but no, I love. I'll tell you the other one that's got it that is amazing as well. It's actually exactly the same system as the Mercedes EQC, which I wasn't. It was such a huge machine, but the paddles on that. I went down a mountain in Norway and just was basically controlling the speed with the paddle, and the same thing. You could just grip and hold, and it would slow it right up to a hairpin bend that was then a cliff and a fjord. You really wanted to slow down.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should be live on YouTube. I think Josh is just trying to get us Facebook Live. I think at the moment, if not, we might have to push everyone to go on YouTube.
Oh, right.
Share my clip now. We're going live. So so thank you, Robert, for coming along this evening. And we thought it was a bit different. We've been doing a few virtual events. We've done a quiz or two, I think 2 quizzes and various things like which are trying to hard. Like how many questions can you answer about Elon and his family?
Yes.
Random facts that are in the back of people's brains. So it's quite good to do some of these talks as well. And we did obviously Battery Day the other week, which was good fun. We had Dan from your team on as well.
Right.
And just
that's right.
His opinion and Llewellyn McTurk and a few others as well, so they were far more knowledgeable than I am on these things. So.
Yeah, yes, because we were watching it, and I was going, I don't know how to even talk about tabless batteries. You know, because I've actually seen batteries being made, so I do understand that there is a tab, which, you know, as far as I was concerned, was vital, because that's how the power gets connected. So to do tabless, I don't know, it just was beyond me, but I don't quite those things are.
Yeah,
so that's Facebook will go live on schedule. Okay.
So we've got 2 minutes.
Yeah,
7:30 exactly. That will kick off.
So I could be really rude until 7:30, and then
no, you've got 80 people watching you on YouTube, so
I won't be rude.
But it's a new system that we're trying out today. So if there are a few teething issues, then we apologise. But it should also be recorded, so anyone that misses it can watch it back as well. If they want to. So that'd be fun, but
no, it's good. It's very, very smooth system. Very good.
Yeah, I think we've probably tried about 8 systems in the last 6 months. Different people send you a link, and everyone.
No, I used a new one today, and just for audio podcast recording, Zencaster, which I've just signed up for, which is great, really good, and that worked very well.
Yeah, there's some good stuff. I think because Zoom, are doing their financial statements this week, aren't they? And that everyone's supposedly waiting on bated breath because this company that suddenly gone from here to up high in sales.
Yeah, because I heard a guy, I don't know who he was, something to do. He was one of the founders or the founder, and like last year they had upwards of sort of 11,000 users, and they thought they were doing really well. It's now 1.2 billion. That's the amount of downloads they've had. It's just insane, absolutely insane.
It's insane numbers. Yes. Perfect. Well, thanks everyone that's joining us on YouTube. We should be live any minute on Facebook.
Second now.
And then any second, I think there was a countdown, I don't know if Josh is going to do it. 10 seconds we've got. 10 seconds in my ear. That's what Josh is telling me. It's very professional over here. So.
Yeah. I'm going to put a timer on so I know if I've waffled on too long.
Perfect. Now, I think we are live everywhere. So welcome, everybody, to this evening with Tesla Owners UK and Robert Llewellyn from Fully Charged. We wanted to try something a bit different, and Robert was glad to come and assist and help us with this. Now, one thing before we get started, I'd like to reference This year, our chosen charity is Mind, the mental health charity. And without major in-person events such as Fully Charged Live, which we've supported for the last 2 years, we obviously would have raised a lot more money for Mind this year if we'd had in-person events. So if you are able to donate or check out their services, please go to justgiving.com/Tesla Owners UK, or obviously Mind's website as well. We all are affected by mental health, so don't feel ashamed in any way. Just go and research it. Everyone can learn, and if you can donate, they're a great charity as well. So without further ado, for those not aware, Robert is a renewable energy and electric vehicle advocate, TV presenter, actor, comedian, writer, and best known, at least in our circles, for Fully Charged and YouTube channel, alongside their events showcasing renewable energy, electric vehicles, sustainable living, etc. And I think Robert first experienced electric powered vehicle, if I'm right, in 2000 after getting in the back of a Toyota Prius after a conference in LA. He came back to the UK, sold his dirty, disgusting VW Golf R32 not long after, and the rest, as they say, is history. Is that a fair assessment, Robert?
That is just about correct. In fact, there was a conference that I went to in LA, which was about online video on the internet. That was in 2000, and I actually went in the Prius in 2001 when we were making Scrap Heap in Los Angeles. So I was living in Los Angeles the second time, and that was when I got a lift in a Prius late one night, and it suddenly started moving without going vroom. That's the first time I'd ever experienced something like that. It was very weird. Yeah.
So you've gone from Nissan Leaf, if I'm right, Mitsubishi Eevee, Tesla Model S, Model 3, all taking sort of pride of place on your driveways, alongside probably endless other cars on test and various things. Yeah. And obviously Powerwall, solar on your roof, Zappy charging as well. Yes. And you've probably driven every EV, at least in the UK, and probably certainly in Europe and maybe even further. So we'd like to welcome you tonight, Robert, and thank you for joining us. And we'll just sort of get your thoughts on some things tonight. It's very relaxed. We're not wanting, demanding things from you too much, but your thoughts on now, the future, and then obviously some time for some questions and answers as well, which I think
very good.
Yeah, sort of the really interesting things. So you started Fully Charged in 2010. Yeah. Did you expect it to get this big?
No. I mean, it was it really was a half-baked, sort of a slightly sulky and immature. Like I'll show them, because I'd been to the BBC with a guy called Gary Hunter, who was the director, the director of the first series of Scrap Heap, which was in '98. And is that right? 88, 90? Yes, 98. It's difficult to remember these things. And Gary was an amazing guy, and he then became an in-house BBC producer, and he effectively created the Top Gear that became popular. Because up to then, Top Gear was just a program about blokes driving cars, and then it became a sort of chat show where they all sat around. Well, that was he created that format with that team, and so by the time, cut forward 10 years, he'd stopped doing that. He has some great stories about that, and I went with him to the BBC to pitch Fully Charged, a show about electric vehicles and the future of transport and energy, and they had not a clue. I mean, they weren't even rude about it. They just didn't know what I was talking. They kind of said, "I don't know what you're talking about. Do you mean milk floats?" And I said, "No, electric cars." No, because they had no idea. So then I got slightly annoyed, and I pitched a joke idea, which was that I would drive around the UK in an electric catering van with solar panels on the roof, and I would cook meals for choirs, and then they do singing. So there'd be a cooking and singing and travel program. They love that, and actually, I would love to do that now. They thought that was a great idea, but we never did that. But yeah, so it was. I just thought I'll just make it anyway. And at that point, I had made a series called Carpool, which was shot in a Prius, because it was quiet. That was one of the reasons it kind of lent it to. So those things have always been a combination of the technology and the affordability. So I could make Carpool incredibly cheaply, because I did the whole thing myself. It was just, 3 cameras in a car, go and pick someone up that I'd known for years at the beginning, and do talking and hope that it was mildly interesting, And I mean, the thing I did work out, because I recorded myself and my wife driving on a long drive to test out the stuff. And what I realized then is you forget that there's cameras on, and we forgot, and we were having a row, basically, like you do. She was driving in quite a bad temper, and I was sitting right back in the passenger chair giggling because she was in such a foul mood. So it really was revealing, and that's what happened with that show, is that people just talked very freely, and that became quite successful in its own little niche, and predates James Corden by quite a few years.
He owes you a few million, I think.
I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to get it. Let's put it like that. But yeah, so by then I'd sort of got used to producing video for YouTube. Had sort of really grown up big by then. So I just started it, and I mean, it took 2 years to get 1 million views. And a couple of weeks ago, we got 1 million views in a week. We quite often get between sort of 800,000 and 1 million views a week now, which is incredible to think that's happened. I mean, it took 10 years, but it has kept going. And it's now like a little cottage industry with, everyone's on minimum time now. Most of our editors are on a day a week, because that's all everything's been cut absolutely back to the bone. But actually, the thing that I wanted to say, because we couldn't do Fully Charged Live this year, as you're all aware. But I really wanted to just do an extra thank you to everyone in the Tesla Owners Club, because we really do. It made an incredible impact. The fact that so many people got a lift to the show in a Tesla. We heard about it all the time. I mean, the amount of families I met there, the dad would come up and say, "Oh, thanks, Robert. It's having a great time at Fully Charged Live." And their son would say, "We went in a Tesla." That was an amazing thing to do, and it was really appreciated. And it's such a hard thing in the chaos of those events. It's really hard to find the time to come and say thank you. And
I always say to people, do you want to give up your whole weekend, drive around, basically be a taxi for the weekend? And people are like, "Yeah, this is great. I'd love to. Can't wait."
Yeah,
and it is, because I say to people, I've bored all my family, all my friends, my neighbours. I've even taken out in my Tesla. So for us, it's like a great.
It is. It is. Yeah, because it is that
show people.
Because I haven't done it for a while, but I've done it a lot in the past. But the most recent one was a friend of mine who's a TV producer, and that has no interest in cars at all. I don't think he's even got one at the moment. He lives in the middle of London. And he came to visit, and I gave him a lift in the car, and didn't. I undersold it. We were just going down the road to get some milk and cheese or something, and I didn't do anything. But I did switch it, because I have it on my Model 3. It's not a performance Model 3, but I have it set to chill. That's how I drive it, because I don't do performance drive. But I just discreetly changed it to standard or normal, whatever the opposite of chill is. And of course, I forget how powerful that car is. And he just freaked out. I mean, he kept talking about it. He said, "I cannot believe that car. It's amazing." And he'd never been in anything other than a taxi or a combustion car with them and that. So it does have that effect.
So we've also got Dennis also on the call that was with us last week, and he was saying that also the Texans did a very good job at Fully Charged Live in Austin as well.
Which of course, I'm unaware of it. I was told about it, but I wasn't there, which was just the most frustrating thing. Yeah. So I was very unwell over the winter, and thankfully before all this kicked off. So I'm very lucky in that sense, but I've had to be very careful this year. But it was, and that was a classic case of me when Dan suggested doing Fully Charged Live here. I said, no one's going to, it's not going to work, It's not, just was very skeptical about it, very much proven wrong. But then when he said we could do it in Texas, I went, "Are you kidding? Texas, you're insane. What are you talking about?" And it was sold out, and it was an amazing success. So, I've got to shut up now. I don't say anything. When he comes up with a mad idea, I go, "Yeah, it'll be brilliant. I've learned my lesson."
So back on a personal level, what do your extended family? I mean, we obviously see you on stage and on screen. What do your extended family and friends think of the whole Eevee, renewable energy, fully charged stuff? Is it the same as the British public, or have they, have you bored them to death?
Yeah, I think they're probably bored to death. So my sister would have zero interest in it, but her husband is an engineer. An electronics engineer, and he's very interested. He now has a Honda, the original, was it the Honda Insight, the little tiny hybrid, and he's rebuilt it so it's purely electric. but he also uses a Mitsubishi, the plug-in hybrid. I do criticize him for that. He'll go fully electric. My brother is an automotive engineer. He worked on Formula One cars a great deal when he was a young man. He's built cars for all sorts of people, rebuilds them. But he's very slow. So he could never be on. I don't mean he's very slow. It sounds like I'm being rude about my brother, but he doesn't work fast. So he would have been useless on scrap heap, because I always used to tease him. I said, if I could say, teams, you've got 10 to 15 years to make this machine, he would make the best machine you've ever seen. But a brilliant engineer. So he is total 100% petrol head, massive, everything. And he is now in his workshop. He's retired. In his workshop, he is building a dual motor rear wheel drive 1,000 horsepower electric sports car. Which I just think is unimaginable. And it's going up on a ramp to do torque testing in a few weeks, apparently, and he wants me to go and see it. But so I've seen a chassis that he'd built that was stunning. I mean, he does do amazing work. So that's had that effect. My own children they're not bothered about it. My son is a cameraman, so he does film odd episodes of Fully Charged. Generally, we try and arrange it, not the ones I'm in. So like Helen or Andy, he'll film those ones, or Rory. But he has done a couple with me, and it's fine. It's great. He's very good. I don't think there's a lot of. I think it's become just normal for us. So for instance, my wife has probably sold quite a few electric cars to her pals, but not from doing any effort. She drives up in it and they see it and they go, is that it's one of Robert's things. Just, I don't know. And I say, is it any good? Yeah. Anyway, she doesn't want to talk about it. And they have a go in it and they go, oh my God. And then they go and buy one, so that is quite.
And what about sort of Craig, Charles, Danny and Chris?
I think Danny's really into it. Danny wants a Tesla. He's got solar panels on his house. He wants an electric motorbike. He's very, very into it. Craig can't drive. I don't know. Technically, I don't think he's ever allowed to drive again. He certainly shouldn't be allowed to drive again. So he always sits in the back. So if I give him a lift, he gets in the back with a cushion and goes to sleep. That's nice. Yeah, so it's nice to catch up. And Chris thinks that electric cars are literally the work of the devil, and he can't even look at them, and he has to go like that. And it keeps them away. So I always like parking my Tesla next to his Jag as close as I can, and see if I can infect it a bit. But but he's very funny about it.
And then summon it out with your
yes.
So Model S or Model 3? You've driven both. You've owned both.
For me personally, and it is a personal thing, Model 3 is just, it's the best car I've ever had. And I'm old and I've had quite a lot of different cars. It's just a hugely better car. I just love it. And I just find it much easier to drive. I think I had a fairly early Model S that just felt a bit floppy, I think is the way to do it.
And
amazing performance.
Have you redriven like a newer Model S?
I have driven. Yes, I did have a go in one last year. So I absolutely agree. They're enormously improved. Absolutely much, much better. The interior of mine just felt a little bit like they'd run out of bits. So they just sort of threw a couple of, it didn't really have, whereas I love the interior of the Model 3. It works for me really well. I can understand some people might find the screen difficult and all that stuff, but I love having nothing in front of me. I wouldn't mind a heads-up display, I must admit, because every now and then I'll drive another car that's got a really good but very simple heads-up display. The ID3 is very nicely done, and the kind of little hints of it's keeping it subtle, isn't it? That human-machine interface is the thing that I'm the most interested in. I don't care what color the car is or really what shape it is, but how is that intuitive? So the one thing that the ID3 does that I thought was beautiful, it's you put a destination in the sat nav, you come up to a junction, and as you're slowing down to come up to the junction, there's a blue light that goes across the screen telling you to turn right, and it's kind of subconscious. You're turning right. I'm not looking at the sat nav to see if it's right or left. It's right, because that's doing that right in your eye line. That is genius. Yeah. Genius little thing. It's not a big deal. It's not a big, flashy, hefty thing. It's a really fine line of LEDs. So
would you say the ID3 is the best car you've driven this year?
Oh, God, I've got to be careful because what else I would do? I mean, normally I wouldn't be able to say it, but I've driven so few cars this year because of what's been going on.
Yeah.
It's certainly right up there. And I mean, it blew me away when I did test drive it in South Africa 2 years ago, and I just thought it was amazing. Because I mean, I always had smaller cars. I wasn't a big car person, other than I had Land Rovers, so they were huge. But I didn't really like big cars. I loved the Golf because it was small. You know, it was, and even though it was a monster, my R32 was such a stupid. That's the most stupid car I've ever bought in my life. Because up to then, I'd always had secondhand, you know, nice, fairly new secondhand Golfs, and that was the first time I bought a brand new car in a car showroom. That they put flowers on the passenger seat as a big bouquet of flowers because they flogged a car. They couldn't believe someone was such an idiot, and it lost God knows how much as I drove it out of the showroom in terms of value. But I mean, I did love it. I had it for a year. The kids hated it because it was so noisy in the back and uncomfortable.
So, were there any features on that car that you would love to have in your Tesla or Nissan Leaf today?
Not really. I mean, it was a great car to drive. It's 4-wheel drive. You know, it was the sound of it. You know, they did tune that exhaust note. So that was at a time when I could still appreciate a throaty warble. And I still think of it every now and then. There's a lane that leads up to our house that is it goes up a hill. It's between two very high Cotswold stone walls. So now I can hear the engine whine of a Tesla Model 3 if I have the windows open. As I go up the hill, but in the old days, I would wind all the windows down. I'd drop a couple of gears as I went through the village very slowly, wouldn't break in the speed limit, and then I'd put it in about third to go up the hill, as it had a beautiful deep warble. That V6, it was gorgeous. So yeah, I missed that. But that said, I remember starting it up in the garage. I would never, if you reversed into the garage, started up, you would nearly die. Just the fumes were terrible. You know, when a combustion engine starts, doesn't matter what it's doing when it's warmed up. When it's cold and you start it, diesels and petrol, that smell is, and now I'm looking back, I think that is terrible. That was acceptable, you know, just shocking.
Yeah. So moving away from your cars and the previous cars, etc. If you had a magic wand, and you could walk into the Department for Transport or OLEV offices, what would you change your push for? Oh,
I would think to legislate so that any new building development that includes car parking, that every single space in any car park has to have a Type 2 7-kilowatt charging socket. Now, whether you pay for it or it's free because you're shopping in a whatever. So not like 3 in the corner with green floor with leaves on it, every single one. And it's being done in other countries, and it is being done. It's starting to be done here, but it's so obvious that that's what we need. Not 4 incredibly expensive rapid chargers at the dark end of a car park, just everyone, you know. And if that's stipulated in the building codes, then it's just what you do, you know. I mean, and there's been, I think that is a critical thing. And I argued that I did I sat in front of a committee, and I just said the two things are: you charge cars when you're not using them. That was my argument to the committee of MPs. I didn't quite work out they were MPs until I'd finished. I just thought they were sort of clever people who worked for the government, and I recognised one of them, Oliver Letwin. And I went, I know him. He's an MP. It was quite frightening doing that. I've never done it before, and I'm sure I'll never do it again. They're not going to ask me back. But I said, I want to buy electricity as easy as I can buy a packet of crisps and a can of fizzy drink. You know, it's ridiculous that I have to be a member and sign up to something so that I can buy some electricity. Come on, just make. And they have. So that, I mean, they didn't do it because of me. Everyone was saying it, but
it was always a massive frustration. You know, arrive somewhere 9 o'clock at night, pitch black, and like, do I need a card? Do I need that?
Yes.
You know, why can't I just tap and go?
Yeah.
So we referenced your previous car history. What's next for you?
Heavens, I don't know. I mean, because it's sort of, there's a side of me that if I had limitless funds, I would put a deposit down on a Tesla Roadster. Because I'll tell you why. One, it looks like it's easier to get in and out of. It's a bit bigger than the original Tesla Roadster, which I had to be helped out of 10 years ago when I'd driven it a long way. But but that is so ridiculous that, I just think, well, you can't be. It's so tragic to be a bald old man that can't quite get in a sports car.
Getting jacked out of the side.
Yeah, but I want to wear, actually, Chris Barry has some, the driver's gloves with holes punched in the top of the fingers and, Velcro. So you can do some proper driving. No, I mean, I was absolutely blown away by the Rivian when I saw that in Austin, Texas. The Rivian SUV thing, it's just extraordinary. And you just, that was stunning. But in a sense, if I'm sensible, what I need is a small car, a smaller car. That's all. I would love So if there was a golf-sized Tesla coming out in the next couple of years, which there's sort of some rumors about, or, I don't know if they will do that. That would be, I think that would probably be behind the list, because it's a really difficult thing once you've had Teslas for a while, and then we have a Kona, as we were talking about, and so I do use that sometimes, and my wife uses it, but she generally just goes somewhere and comes back. So she drives to London, comes back, and doesn't charge it when she's away because it's too much hassle. But recently she's got into it, and she's finding charges in strange places, and and beginning, and it is the ecotricity charge horror. It's so difficult, it's so painful that the company that was really the first one to put in chargers is now without question the least reliable. It's so frustrating. It's such a shame.
And what amazed us is that it looks like they're going to put in a load more alongside Tesla. Someone in the comments will know the location, but I think there was a 8-bay or a 10-bay ecotricity chargers going in, and we're like, really? You've been silent for the last X amount of years, and it's
wow. But they're putting in their own chargers.
I'm sure someone in the comments will know for exactly.
Yeah, because I'm trying to.
Plan.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't have anything to do them anymore, and it's a shame because I get on with Dale very well, but I really don't know what they're up to. The one clue, and that was my wife. In fact, she was driving back from Hastings, and she had to charge someone. She rings me, and I look on ZapMap, and I go, well, there's one at the such and such services. You can go there. There's an ecotricity. You can see if that works. She went in there. There were 4. There was no ecotricity charges. They'd gone, and there were 4 Ionity chargers in their place. And I've since heard from other people on Twitter about this, and they were free vending, so that she didn't even have to pay. Right. And she just plugged it in, and they worked, and it was such a relief. And because that was at night. She was driving back late at night. So I then assumed, maybe Ecotricity have sold their network to Ionity, which wouldn't be a bad thing.
Well, quite. So have you made any improvements or modifications to your Model 3?
No.
I can't imagine you've got big spoilers and that sort of stuff, but you've just left it.
Go faster stripe over the roof, extra wide tyres. No, I've done absolutely nothing to it. I've washed it, but not enough. It is so funny, isn't it? Because we live in a rural area, so if I wash the car here and then drive to London, it's muddy when I get to London because we've had to drive over the lanes around here. So it is a bit grubby. And I parked it next to someone else's Model 3 the other day in Bristol. It wasn't Dan, it was someone else, I can't remember. And theirs was squeaky clean and polished and buffed. And mine looked like a tractor. I mean, it was muddy and brown and dirty. Yeah.
Someone just wrote in the comments, it's Peas Pottage, 12 times version 3 superchargers and 6 times 350 kilowatt ecotricity chargers. That's what's planned. Yeah.
Oh, that's what's planned. Okay. Yeah. I know that. I know. Oh.
Apparently.
I'm going to go down to Brighton now. Yeah. Oh, yes. There. Look at that. Wow.
So what's the one thing you hate about your Tesla? Do you have one thing, or one thing you'd like to change?
Yes. So now I know, and I'm going to be. It's going to be embarrassing because I'm sure you can turn it off. It thinks I'm going to drive into the curb or into the verge. What? And it does the beepy thing, and that drives me insane. I swear at it, and when I swear at it, I'm hoping that I am being spied on by a Tesla operative in California, and I flick things at the cameras because that is just annoying because I'm holding. I actually have a rant. I had a rant about it when I was driving the ID3 because the ID3 did something slightly similar, but I forgive the ID3 because it's the first model and it had a lot of software glitches. They haven't quite sorted it all out. But the Tesla, everything else it does so well. But it does it in really specific locations around where I live. and I've tested it where I let go of the steering wheel, I put it on autopilot, and it does it. And then I'm holding the steering wheel, and I'm right in the middle of the road, so there's no way. And it goes, and it's really loud. And if you're listening to something that you're interested in, an audio book, a podcast, something, the Radio 4 World at One, and then suddenly, that. But I don't know if I can turn that off. I haven't been.
Yeah, I can't remember if you can turn it off. And I know it is
safety
overly
feature,
sensitive. Yeah.
But
press the button and say report bug is what you should.
Yes, that's what I should be doing. That side of it. So it is that side of it that is slightly lacking in the Model 3. So my Model S autopilot, cruise control, all that was faultless. It was so good at driving on motorways on its own. It really did it well. The Model 3 it does. I've got phantom braking. It freaks out. It thinks it's seen a truck coming the other way, and there's nothing there. So my daughter named it Timidity. So we call it Timmy. That's its name, is Timidity, because it's all like, it does a lot of that where it brakes and pulls in and goes, and there's nothing there. There's nothing in the road, absolutely. But that is being picky. I mean, other than that, I tend not to use autopilot in the car. I use cruise control. I use not the full auto. It isn't full autopilot I've got anyway, but whatever it is. And I really, really miss Summon. I loved Summon in the Model S, and I haven't got it on the Model 3. And I love that. Yeah. There was about four proper, genuine occasions where I used Summon for real because I couldn't possibly get the car in the car park space because it's so big and be able to get out. And that was so cool to be able to use it for real. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, for me, normally it's just trying to show off to someone at a party.
Absolutely. 90% of the time it's showing off. Yeah.
So companies like Toyota, Lexus, and many more continue to confuse the general public with their self-charging or multiple power source claims. What do you think will change how they approach this?
It will be a combination of legislation, and they will know more about market shifts, public opinion. You imagine the amount of money they spend on researching those things. And I know for a fact that Toyota will be selling battery electric vehicles in Europe and in North America in the next 18 months. They know how many people have bought a Mirai. In California there are some, and there are actual hydrogen filling stations, and they've pushed that so hard for so long, and it just hasn't really worked. And it's a beautiful car to drive. I love the Mirai. It was from the point of view of a driver, getting a Mirai, it's nice. But I just can't see that catching on. And now they are doing better. So they sell battery electric in China already, quite a lot of them. They're doing quite well, and I think they're seeing that and they're seeing all the other companies doing it. And it's so weird that they dug in against it. So there's got to be some executives at the top of Toyota who just said, battery electric's rubbish, it's never going to work, the public won't accept it. That's their market research, and I think they're probably going to change their minds. It's becoming, that's the thing I've really noticed from doing public speaking, is the shifts in public opinion about electric vehicles. So it was all the kind of Top Gear type negative, throw the batteries away, it's run on coal, they're dirtier than diesel, you throw the batteries, all that stuff, all gone. Range anxiety, all gone. It's now, there's not enough chargers, which is a perfectly legitimate criticism. It certainly is. And they're too expensive to buy. And those two, I go, there, you're right. Don't buy one. Wait till you get a second-hand one, and there'll be more chargers then. But other than that, it's I think certainly Toyota, that is so annoying. That particular bit of marketing, very clever bit of marketing. The self-charging hybrid. I had two neighbours. Now one of them went to Eton, so a well-educated man came over and he said, "Have you heard about this self-charging hybrid? We're thinking of getting one." And I said, "Well, yeah, it is a." I was just going, is he joking? I couldn't tell. I said, It is a petrol car. And he sort of went quiet. No, it's self-charging. He thought it was an electric car you never had to charge.
Yeah.
You don't have to plug it in. And when I explained it was a petrol car, he went, "Oh, it's just like a boring hybrid. Oh, we don't want that." Walked away. That was it.
Yeah.
Didn't even want to talk about it.
15-year-old technology with a new label, basically.
Yeah.
So does your car, your Model 3, have a name? And more importantly, do you have other robots in your house?
He does have he's Timothy. I did actually mention that. So he's timid. Yeah. That wasn't my daughter named him Timothy. Do I have other robots? Well, I've got model ones behind me. I've got some model Crichtons. I don't think we do.
No robot lawnmowers or
no.
things.
Got an electric lawnmower. I don't think I've got. I'm trying to think. Well, no, I don't. I'd love some. I just want the robots that you see on car production lines. I mean, every time I've gone around a car factory, which is quite a few times, I get dragged away from the robot arm that fits the windscreens. It's just exquisite. It's like ballet.
Yeah.
That thing is just. I love that. Yeah, so no, I haven't got any robots. I feel a great shame at my lack of robots.
How do we as a nation improve the charging infrastructure like other countries have? I think your main one you referenced earlier was sort of the ones in car parks.
Yeah.
What would be the other things that you would think?
I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm fascinated to see what will happen. So we are soon to be filming at a big charging hub that's been built just outside Braintree in Essex. I think it's got 38 350 kilowatt chargers under a massive solar canopy. It's got 8 Tesla superchargers. It's got a shop, loo, high-speed Wi-Fi showroom. I don't even know. It's amazing. GridServe is the company that's building it. And it will open sometime in late November. It will open. And I've been to see it as a building site, and it's really, really impressive. And that, I think, will give huge reassurance to the general public that aren't that interested or bothered, but are thinking, our next car will probably be electric. They'll see that. Even if they don't ever use it, they'll see it go, oh, you can charge in those. That's like a garage. I recognize that. So I can see the point of it. And they've got 100 sites around the country to build these things. And, it will be an absolute joy to charge there. It'll be much nicer than pretty much anywhere else you can charge, because there are the facilities there to support you. And I think that's the other thing about, I completely understand why people are cynical and bitter about Shell putting in charges, or BP Chargemaster putting in charges at filling stations. The thing is, there's someone there. If the place is open and you go up and you charge and it's not working, and I've heard numerous anecdotes about that. They went in the shop and go, the charger isn't working. Guy comes out, knows how to reboot it, and it works. That is kind of, rather than you're on your own in a car park under a dripping tree and the damn thing doesn't work, so. Yeah.
And that's actually something we've been trying to work with Tesla on, alongside people. I don't know if you saw Maddie Moat's tweets, where she was saying...
She was in a car park in the dark, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like... And that's something the Tesla Club have been trying to push Tesla to do, extra lighting, extra CCTV, the basics. And there's a few sites still to this day that in the UK where we're like, it's not safe, basically.
No.
There's a load of trees and it's dark and it's not nice, really. And big companies like Tesla and all these other brands, have to look after their owners. So, why shouldn't we push for that? And I know government are looking into it as well, but it's it's a concern. I mean,
it is an extraordinary, when you think of that, what Tesla have done. I mean, it's so hard to I have to keep reminding myself, that I have driven to Stockholm and to just near Sicily. We didn't actually go to Sicily, but we went right down to the south of Italy using superchargers. It was everything about the stress of that journey was not about charging. It was about, can we get gluten-free pasta for my wife? It was like nothing. It was never about, the charging was like a non-issue. We drove all through Germany, Austria. We drove through Switzerland or through France without any trouble at all, but as regards charging. Didn't even think about it. And that was amazing to think that is one company that has installed that infrastructure around Europe. Not even their own, in America, you can kind of understand that. Okay, it's an American company. In China, you can drive anywhere in China using Tesla superchargers. It's bonkers.
Yeah, it's crazy. And also when you understand the infrastructure and the cost, I mean, I think the statistic was, it was a minimum of £180,000 for I think 4-bay charger, and the majority of that was like paperwork. And it's like how expensive are these ginormous things to install?
And
I think lots of things have improved from government side of things, like the way leave issue supposedly is now vastly improved, and various other things. But you're right. So.
But I mean, that is one of the interesting things that GridServe have done. So they are a company that have installed really huge solar farms, so that's been their business, and they've obviously made that connection. So they've installed this. So their actual grid connection, it's going to be beefy, but there's no way it could support whatever it is, 38, 350. If there were 38 Porsche Taycans plugged in at the same time, you would need such a kilowatt. But what they've got is massive batteries, absolutely massive battery banks that are charging 24 hours a day, and they dump the power into the chargers. So, that's one of the things we hope to film, where we're filming there before it opens, that we're trying to get as many cars there so we can charge every car, so we need sort of 8 Teslas. And I mean, I think Dan will be in touch with people discreetly. We've got to be really careful because it's not open to the public, so we can't announce it publicly. But I think the Tesla Owners Club, you're all discreet enough. You're all sensible people, because that would be great. So you're in the sort of Essex area. It'll be sometime in November. We'll discreetly get in touch, I think, because it would be great to have it full. They're desperate to do it. They want to test it to see if it works, see if we can blow a fuse. But,
so what are your views on the transition to EVs? Do you think manufacturers are just playing lip service? What is your experience dealing with other manufacturers? Are they forthcoming? Is it pulling blood from a stone to review their cars? What's your experience?
It's got a lot easier. It's definitely got easier. So they are more, in a sense, there's an element of panic. So I was invited to go to Greece to test drive a new car. I won't mention the manufacturer, but a really big and successful European one. I just think they're in a blind panic, because because they asked me yesterday, and it's next week. It's this time next week. And I mean, we're filming this time. I can't, they're so desperate. Oh, quick! Ask someone to come and film there. When? Next week? I need a month. I need 6 weeks warning. We can't just sort of drop everything else and go to Greece. I'd love to have gone to Greece, except I didn't want to go to Greece. But I'd love to have a go in the car. And so they know they've got to do it. Particularly European car makers know they've got to do it. It's so hard to know how hard, for us to understand as outsiders, quite how hard that transition is. I mean, I've had lots of fascinating conversations with Renault, Nissan, Toyota about the sheer scale of their engine manufacturing, of their combustion engine manufacturing, of the tens of thousands of people that work for companies like Nissan and Toyota making engines. And they've got it down to a brilliant fine art where they can make them so cheaply that they can almost throw them away. They're almost, they've refined that over 50 years of producing those things. And to stop doing that and to try and then make a completely different technology that they have no experience of. It's software. An electric car is a computer on wheels with a big battery. It's not a combustion car. And so all the skill sets they have and all the kind of intricacies and the painful awkwardness of a combustion engine transmission, you then think, God, that's been years of developing gearboxes and to have different gears. Oh, God, they're heavy. So when you see converted classic cars, I've just driven the Ferrari that electric classic cars did, which is amazing, which has a ludicrous mode Tesla motor in it, 500 horsepower Tesla motor, in a tiny little Ferrari. Goes like stink. But what they took out of that was this huge, just physically big thing, which was the gearbox, which is, I didn't know they had a reputation for being utterly dreadful gearboxes in that era of Ferrari. And I've driven an original one of those cars, and it was so hard to get it into gear and to change gear. It was really difficult. It was very crude. So I think there is going to be, we're going to lose some really big familiar names in automotive manufacturing in the next 10 years. They're just inevitable. They're not all going to be able to cope, I think. And we're going to see such an explosion of new ones, and particularly China. There are so many startup car companies in China that are already manufacturing cars on production lines, not just one-off test cars, proper manufacturers that are selling cars that we've not even heard of the company. There's some we've now heard of, Xiaopeng, NIO, BYD, but there's other ones. I can't remember the names. There's about another dozen electric car companies that are making cars that are being sold in China some of them incredibly cheaply, £3,000 for a 2-seater city runabout. Tiny little thing, but it's 3,000 quid. It's got a 140-mile range on its batteries, and if they, that's not going to come here for £3,000 ever, but we're going to start seeing, and that's where we'll see that transition where once electric cars are cheaper, which they are cheaper to make, even though all the excuses that the traditional manufacturers will use, once they're cheaper to make than a petrol or diesel car, that's going to be, and they can sell them cheaper. Here's the thing. This is my argument, and I might have bored people with it before. If you're making 100,000 diesels a year and selling them, and then you start making an electric car, and one of the engineers comes and tells you, look, this is actually costing £3,000 less to make than the diesel ones. And you go, yeah, but we only sell 500 of these, and we sell 500,000 of the diesel ones. So let's make the electric one really, really expensive to stop people buying it. And you look at the price of batteries per kilowatt hour 10 years ago, totally justified the price of an electric car 10 years ago. Not now. It's not now. It's £4,000 or £5,000 for a battery pack now. A pack finished, not just the batteries. And when I had my little Eevee, that was a £22,000 battery pack, and it was what was it, 18 kilowatt hours? Yeah. That's so. Anyway, yeah.
So Tesla have always said that the supercharger network would be opened up to other people, other companies, if they were willing to pay. How much truth do you think really is in that? And do you think that will ever happen?
I just don't. Well, I must admit, it made me think more once they suddenly they did it so quick, fitted CCS chargers. Because when I had the Tesla Model S, there was no other car that could take that charge. Just technically, there was nothing else that you'd plug in you might be able to get a Type 2 7 kilowatt charge out of a supercharger, which kind of negates the point of them. I just thought, well, who can plug into them? There's no other cars that I've ever seen that had that charging technology built in. But now with CCS, there's lots of cars that could use it theoretically.
And actually, the other day,
there have been people using it.
The software update. It's the quickest software update I've ever seen Tesla do. Just rolled out across. I think it was mainly a European thing.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. CCS, and that's now fixed. But it shows that it's possible. It's
a difficult one, isn't it? Because if you did, so if I pulled up at a supercharger site and there were 12 superchargers, and I couldn't use any of them because there were Jag Ices and e-trons and BMW i3s or whatever, that would be quite tough. But, I then think, well, now I pay for supercharging. So I had free supercharging in the Model S, and I had it for the first year of the Model 3, and then suddenly I got a bill. That was a bit of a shock. I mean, I don't use them that much, and it is, I think, in terms of public chargers and how much they cost, Tesla are incredibly reasonable. They charge a reasonable amount of money. But it's still a bit of a shock, having had basically 5 years of free supercharging, which is... but, I mean, so it's a really tough one. It is a really tough one.
Also because of the other brands, Jaguar, etc. When you arrive at your supercharger, the big logo at the top says Tesla.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one for those companies to say, well, actually, let's fund that rollout of chargers when it doesn't have our brand at top. It's got a competing brand.
Yeah. I mean, it's the first time I've sort of experienced, being in an exclusive club. I've been taken to exclusive clubs by friends who are members. I've never been a member, and then suddenly you're a kind of it's like having children at private school. It's a kind of exclusive club. It's because you've got enough money to buy the car or lease the car or whatever, and you get these privileges. But it's a very public privilege. So you park your Tesla outside the motorway services and plug it in, and then you go. There's other people there in their diesel Astras looking at you, and I am scum. I am middle class scum. I accept that, but I'm a cleaner middle class scum than that bloke there. He's got a Range Rover. Look at him.
So do you obviously watch Battery Day? We discussed that earlier. Do you think Tesla are going to dominate the battery market now for future years?
I can't see how they can't. I mean, I just think they will. Yeah, and they're going to be so far ahead. They are so far ahead. I mean, I think 3 to 5 years ahead of anything else I've driven or heard about. And it's only going to be the likes of a Chinese startup, Neo or someone like that, or Xiaopeng, who really Xiaopeng basically make a Tesla Model 3. It's so close, it's not true, and it's much cheaper, and it sounds quite good. I haven't driven one yet, but Elliot drove it and loved it in China, and Tesla Bjorn in Norway, he's had a go in one. He's impressed with it. So that side of things are going to happen, but they will. I just think they're going to dominate that market. I think the one place that we've heard about where they may not dominate the market simply because there's slightly different technologies that are cheaper and more suitable to like massive storage. So grid storage, multi megawatt or even gigawatt storage. Could be other companies that will come to the fore in those areas. Because they'll be able to produce something that's cheaper and, probably a cheaper, uglier, but last longer. It's that side of it. And then I also think the recycling side of it, that is going to become a really critical issue, and the actual materials in it. So one of the people I've spoken to recently who is involved with the research they're doing in Manchester University and Imperial College for carbon batteries. When they first came out, it was... graphene was how we all heard, graphene, it could be the future of batteries, and then you hear nothing, and then it suddenly comes back, well, actually, we've got graphene batteries, they work. They have about 15 times the energy density of anything that we've got now, and a minuscule amount of the weight. It's like 10% of the weight, and 10 times more energy density, and 100% safe, and 100% made of carbon. Well, I think if I'm lucky and look after myself, I might live to see that. You will. You're a young man, And I think once that happens, that is clearly what is going to happen. What we're going to have is a world that runs on batteries. I think that's become very clear. Not just cars, and certainly aircraft, short haul aircraft. Clearly, and that's the one thing I would never have guessed 10 years ago, that aircraft could be battery electric aircraft. That's clearly is going to happen. Not long haul. I think long haul, not even in your lifetime, you're going to be able to fly to New York or Sydney in a battery electric plane. I can't quite see that.
Yeah.
But
do you think? I mean, it's not a complete tangent, but SpaceX's rockets, going from the UK to Australia in an hour and a half. Do you think that's realistic in the next 15, 20 years? I'm
not sure. I mean, I wrote a science fiction novel where you went up a cable in Hampshire. And the world's spinning really fast, about 27,000 miles an hour. You stay still, the world moves past you, then you go down and you're in New York in 15 minutes. And I kind of had read something along those lines, made it up. And then I talked to a couple of physicists who said that's entirely plausible. The only thing I got wrong was the length of the cable that the little machine climbed up. So you wouldn't need any liquid fuel. You just need electricity to climb up the rope. But they said that, I think I said it was 60 kilometers long, and they said no, if it was 60 kilometers long, you'd be at the bottom seeing a big shadow get bigger and bigger until the satellite it was attached to fell on your head. It's about 650 kilometers it has to be minimum sort of geostationary orbit. But that notion I think could happen, but I think it's probably 50 to 100 years, really. I can't quite see that happening yet. But I think, it's really hard to tell. The idea of long-haul travel, yes, I don't know. It's sort of so esoteric and weird, it's hard to know. But certainly, I mean, certainly short-haul flights. So any European city to another European city, I can see that in my lifetime. In the next 10, 15 years, 200-seat passenger planes that are purely electric is absolutely plausible. And
do you think that autonomous vehicles will actually replace that, though? If I want to go from here to Spain, I could jump in a car in the morning or in the evening and then wake up in Spain, tomorrow lunchtime. Do you think that could actually change the way we go on planes?
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I'm slightly skeptical about fully autonomous passenger vehicles with people in them. And I've been in 3, and they were all really impressive, and they did amazing stuff. So it isn't that the technology doesn't work; it's just the actual necessity for them. So I think autonomous delivery systems, very plausible. Autonomous short air taxis, they're already flying in Dubai. They don't have passengers in, but they're running them constantly. And the other one that was a VW executive that I had lunch with that I talked about, that he talked about that, which was from an insurance point of view, and it was all about car ownership and whether we have car ownership as we understand it now, or we have car access ownership. And that does make a lot of sense in a sort of macro setting. If you think that how long all our cars are sitting around doing nothing, it's about 90 to 95% of the time we own them, which is kind of stupid. And so his argument was that they could develop autonomous cars that you don't own and I don't own, and I'm here and I press a button on my phone or whatever it is, and a car pulls up outside. Now it's empty. No one's driven it. The steering wheel's folded away. All its mirrors are folded in. It's super efficient. It's charged itself up down the road before it came here. It stops outside my house. I get in. I drive it. And as soon as I get in and I'm behind the steering wheel that pops out of the dash, I'm responsible for it. The insurance is me. And if there's a crash, it's my fault. And so, all the arguments about the tram, the tram system, do you kill the little child or the old people, all that stuff, forget it, because it's a human being driving it and we're rubbish drivers. And then you get to the shop and I get out and that car drives away to get someone else, and I do my shopping. I come out of the shop, press a button, another empty car comes up, but it's fully charged, and I get in it and drive home in it, and I don't have to worry about that car. When he explained that to me, and the reason for that is if that car has no one in it, it has a much wider parameter of avoidance. So if it's faced with those critical, there's a dog running across the street there's a child on a pram, there's someone on a bicycle that's just fallen off, the car has this incredibly complex algorithm decision to make with who it kills or does it kill anyone. And one of their ideas is it would have explosive bolts that would drive into the ground. So it would destroy itself. It would do anything to not hurt an animal or a human being. So it could maybe swerve off and smash into a wall. It would smash itself to bits. There's no one in it. So that's removed that extra complication. And in a sense, that made more sense. Once you've been in a fully autonomous car, you go, well, I drove through the middle of London in an autonomous Leaf with someone behind the wheel, but I thought if he wasn't there, there's a kid there on a skateboard. He's just walking in the road. Oh my God. And it slowed down, didn't hit him. It saw him before I saw him. It worked it out. But whose fault is it? If I'm sitting in that car and it runs someone over, is it me? I don't know. Is it the car company? Is it that's a complicated, and that's in a sense it's not the technology that's holding us back, it's the legislation. That's a really tough nut to crack. But autonomous flight, that was a pilot that explained that. He said, because planes are autonomous already, pretty much. When we fly, we don't know, but the pilot's doing very little, particularly in the middle bit. They're not doing anything. That I can see coming much, much sooner. And autonomous deliveries, I think, is those sort of things I can imagine happening sooner. And I think they'd be safe. I wouldn't be anxious about that in that sense as a pedestrian or a cyclist. I think I'd feel safer if the delivery van coming up the lane behind me was autonomous than if it is. There's a particular lady who drives around us in a Range Rover that just needs to go. She's very late always. She needs to be doing 60 to 70 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour limit outside of school. And she has the right to do that.
So if anyone else has any more questions, put them either into YouTube chat or Facebook. I've got one more, I think, here. Are you planning to do any more renewable energy upgrades on your house? You obviously got solar and power. Yeah. You'd like probably to dig a big hole in your ground somewhere for a
just want to
ground source heat pump.
Ground source heat pump would be brilliant. No, I think I'm too late for that. Might do some air source heating. No, the things that we're going to do this year is I've got 3.5 kilowatts of solar panels that aren't plugged in, which is incredibly frustrating. And I bought some more second-hand ones, which aren't here at the moment. They're at the other side of Bath. And so I want to put in more solar in the garden, ground-mounted, because I've now understand I'm trying to put in about 13, 14 kilowatts of solar. I can now have what is it that a solar panel goes into? Inverter. Sorry, an inverter. I could see it. I can get an inverter that will only ever put 11 kilowatts. 5 kilowatts into the grid. Even if it's sunny and all my batteries are full and the cars are full, it will dissipate the rest of that, because that's the problem where I live is I'm already melting the wires. I had to have 3-phase put in, and they don't like you putting too much into the grid. So, and that negates that. But that would mean I could charge cars for real, and because the panels are basically free, I've already got them. And it's just the getting that job done. You know, the wires are in, and it's clearing the bit of garden and building a frame to put the panels on, which I was going to do this year, and it all went to poo. So that I would try and do that, and then the thing the one thing I've got left is we have LPG here for a gas central heating boiler, and all it does is central heating. It doesn't heat the water because that's the Mixergy tank, so it does nothing. So our gas bills are actually very small because the house is well insulated, but I can replace that boiler with an electric boiler, so I don't have to rip the whole heating system out. I can use the existing heating system. It's retrofitting is a pain in the butt, basically, and it's the same for anyone. But there's that's all. It's not very ambitious anymore. I think this year it's basically survive. That's number one. Number one, survive. Number two.
So one question here: have you updated your Leaf with the batteries from the Netherlands?
No, because that's exactly the same thing. So frustrating. I've seen a picture. I've had a picture sent to me of my Leaf battery on a pallet. It's there waiting, a 40 kilowatt hour Leaf battery with 98.6 state of health. You know, so it is just very frustrating. So we were going to film the whole thing of me going over to the Netherlands with the Leaf on a trailer behind an electric converted VW camper van that's got a 150 kilowatt Tesla battery in it. You know, just like, all these brilliant things. That was all last year. We'd had that all arranged. So I'm either going to ship the car over there. I think we're going to leave it now till next year. I mean, it's just so frustrating because I do use it. I've been to the shops in it today. I use it every day. I mean, it's a great little. I love that Leaf. It's so scratched and battered. It's not in very good condition, but you know, it's the only car. It's the only car I actually own. You know, all the other two at least. Long Way Up. Yes, I'm watching Long Way Up. I just saw that. I'm just seeing the. There's a good question. Yeah, Long Way Up. Do watch it if you get the chance. Do you see hydrogen fuel planes in the future? Well, I'm going to see one the week after next. So yes, is the answer to that.
Have you seen any of the blimps? There's a blimp near us, and the idea with that it seems to be that they want to do transport of goods across country overnight. You know, replacing the trucks,
right? Which is a good idea. Yeah.
Yes, I was driving along one day. I'm like, "What the hell is that?"
Right, and it's a blimp.
It's blimp flying along, and then I researched it, and
right, because they could be electrically powered as well, because they could actually have quite heavy batteries in them, and that's interesting. Yeah.
So, what other questions? Government initiatives and grants for home insulation heating. Do you think the government are doing enough? Would you like to see more?
I mean, it's insulation is the thing, because it's I think what where the legislation I think really needs to happen. Clearly, it would any support to get people to insulate their homes. That's so number one, because that's the one thing we did when we rebuilt our house when it was 18 years ago. There's so many things I wish I could have done now. You know, that I just saw the thing about your beer. That I wish we had done, like ground source heating, like all those things which we didn't do. The technology wasn't really there then, but we insulated it really, really well, and we got windows from Germany. I was obsessed with German windows. So our windows, you could have them on a submarine. You know, they are phenomenally well sealed, and our doors do that. You know, that stuff we got right, which reduces your heating bill, which means for poorer people, you pay less money to keep warm, and that's so frustrating. So I think where the legislation needs to come in is in new builds, of which there is an enormous amount at the moment, and that's why we went to see the big building development outside Swansea, outside Cardiff. I mean, that was amazing, that place, what they're doing there, and they're doing a new one which we'll go and see next year. 650 new houses, and the whole development, that housing estate, is a power station that will supply power to the local area. It generates more power than it consumes. And for goodness sake, there's so many houses all around us new housing developments. Not where you see one solar panel on the show home. One. You go. These houses.
Was it? Am I right in thinking? Was it in Wales? You went to see that area? And that was amazing.
And amazing stuff they've got around there is, just the level of sort of thought that's gone into it. So all the houses have a 22 kilowatt car charger. So a three phase car charger. The houses only have single phase, but the car chargers are three phase. They've all got batteries. They've all got ground source heating. And there's no gas. There's no gas anywhere on the site. It's gasless.
Yeah, it's great to see it, but then, like you say, it's so frustrating to see other places without that. It's like, So what do you think the answer is for people with no off-street parking? You've probably seen lots of different technologies and products. And what do you think really is going to be the thing for those?
I mean, I think it is it's the education piece, as I've heard people describe it, that all the time I'm meeting people who do have electric cars who have nowhere off street to park them, and they use them all the time, and they're fine with it. And so there are certainly in London the Ubertricity lamppost chargers. It's taken a long time for them to become understood, but I am now seeing. So there's I now see them when I cycle around West London. I'll see, oh man, there's a Leaf plugged into a lamppost. There's a Tesla plugged into one. People are using them because and that costs a few £100 per lamppost. It's a tiny cost, and no digging up the road and no putting in an extra post. It's already, so that is a very clever breakthrough. But I think the thing is, until you've driven an electric car, you think I've got to charge it every day or I can't use it. And you go, well, because I now know that my Tesla's got about 70 miles range in it. I charged it on Tuesday in the mornings. Yeah, so on Tuesday morning. So some days ago. And before that, I think I charged it, a week before that. So you don't have to charge it every day. It depends what you're doing with it. But So I think, and that is a kind of, how do you understand that? But the other one is things like, Shell. I don't want to, it's like I'm a Shell shill, anything but Shell are just, they will open their urban charging hub. I think probably early next year, realistically. But that is, they've removed as they described it, a profitable filling station in central-ish London. I think it's sort of southeast London somewhere. They won't tell me where it is. I think they know I'll go and try and put a camera on a long stick and try and sneak a picture. But and it will have something like 22 chargers and a shop and all that stuff. That in an urban area, I mean, the first one we went to see, some of the BP Charge Masters in garages are in suburban areas. There's loads of people live in that area. You could use that charger. That's when it's worth joining the club, because you get cheaper electricity, and you're using that as your main source. That isn't that big a jump to make. But it is absolutely true that the advantage you get from being able to charge at home, that's where it's unfair. And someone's got to come up with a very clever, I think someone will. I think that's the thing I've noticed that's the most interesting, is the kind of software, fintech solutions to these things, that there's ways of doing clever deals where you do get cheaper charging or whatever, or if it's at night, or you, particularly once vehicle to grid systems become slightly more common and operating on type 2 connectors, not CHAdeMO or CCS, that's where the difference is, and that's being developed. I mean, that I think is one of the most exciting developments in electric cars, is a type 2 vehicle to grid charger. I think is a very interesting, because it means much cheaper. That's the main thing.
Have you looked at Octopus Energy's electric juice network? I don't know too much about it, but one card, I think, one bill, one network, allowing you to charge at multiple places. No,
because a lot of people are doing that. No, I'm not aware of that, because I'm an Octopus Agile. I've got my supplier is Octopus, and I'm still not getting it right. I was charging the Tesla at 5 o'clock in the evening, and I went, I really must unplug that, because that's costing more than my arm. But I didn't know about that, because ZapMap are also doing that. So there's ZapPay now on ZapMap. Yeah. I didn't know that Octopus were doing that. So you can. It would go on your electricity bill, and you could charge a car in Cornwall, but you live in Leicester, but you could. Is that how?
I don't know how it's charged exactly. It says you can pay with Octopus Energy on any of Chargy's 300 lampposts. You can use electric juice card to access any of the following networks: Alpha Power, Franklin, Hubster Energies,
Right.
charge points. And they'll introduce new and more companies soon.
So,
And it also looks like there's an Ubitricity link as well.
Right.
As well. So that seems, I mean, ideally, I still think personally a debit card or something is really
so easy.
what everyone wants. But that may be a middle ground for.
Yeah, but I mean, if you live on a street and there's 10 Ubitricity or whatever lampposts that you can plug into, and you have to be a member of or have a Octopus account, then it makes sense to have that account because that's what you're using most of the time. That does make sense. And but then when you're on a long journey, absolutely, I just let me tap to pay. Or the car, it's really the car. It's what Tesla have done. They're 3 to 5 years ahead of anyone else. Plug the car in. The car talks to the bloody charger and goes,
buy
I'll
coffee.
pay for it. Yeah.
I don't want to.
I don't want to have it. I want it to be. It's got to be frictionless. It's so that has been a big frustration. But I mean, in a sense, if you had one of the early Model T Fords and you lived in Milwaukee, it was a Milwaukee resident sent me a newspaper article from like 1908 of the man who owned a Model T Ford, and he had to drive to the chemist, to the pharmacy, to buy fuel, and he could buy a gallon can. Because it was a cleaning fluid. People used it to clean their floors. That must have been a nice smell in a house.
So we've got a question. What's your favourite Eevee YouTube channel? Obviously, apart from Fully Charged, is there a particular person or a group that you really
I'm just
like
trying to think
admire
what I watch. I mean, I'm Tesla Bjorn because he just makes me laugh. And Ben Sullins, who used to do Teslanomics but now does Ben Sullins.
Yeah.
He just knows stuff. It's he's clever. He's very, very clever. So clever people I'm impressed with. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, those two I definitely have watched.
I mean, Tesla Bjorn's been doing it for so long. And the thing I love about him is here's an hour video of me just enjoying my day.
Yeah.
It's so long and brilliant.
I just love his voice because I met him in Oslo. We had such a lovely time. It was so nice. That's that weird thing where you've seen someone, I think it's not the same as my old life, which was, I'd be at a BBC party and I met Clarkson a few times at those things, or, you'd meet someone that you'd seen on the telly and they'd be introduced to you. And it was kind of, sort of awkward, but being in the street and Tesla Bjorn coming up to me was just a magic moment.
So do you think maybe him as a presenter for Fully Charged?
Could do, yeah. I mean, I think he probably loves doing his own thing. I'm sure, I don't know. I mean, I think we should I'd love to do some collaborations with them. We have talked about that, and it's just so difficult to organise. But I mean, the thing that I'm really enjoying about what we're doing Fully Charged now is like Elliot Richards in Shanghai. It's just amazing that has worked, and he's really into it. He's doing some amazing things. He's shot already, and he's doing more. But the public charging network in China, oh my God, they do have one. And you can imagine, we need chargers. How many do we need? 600,000. When do you need them by? About a month. Let's say 6 weeks. 600,000 chargers went in no time at all. I mean, it's just amazing. But then we've now got Stefan Cox in the Netherlands, who's just started filming for us, who's a racing driver.
Oh, okay. Right.
And she's going to review all sorts of stuff basically in Germany, in the Netherlands, Denmark. There's a lot of things. She's going up the world's tallest wind turbine for us, and she's terrified of heights. And I said, you don't have to do it. But she wants to do it because she wants people to see how scared she is. So
I appreciate we're getting closer to the time now. So phantom braking. Have you experienced that in the...
Yes. It's the most annoying thing in the world. It's just a massive amount of screaming expletives when there's nothing in the way.
So for you, is it bridges or lorries or what's?
It's empty road. It's generally empty road. There's nothing. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's a leaf flittering down. I don't know what it is. Just so annoying. It's actually, I think, to be fair, it's doing it less than it used to. But it might be that the actual car is so terrified of me pressing the the fast pedal with such venomous force to override the phantom braking. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that is not a good thing. And it worries me if there's someone behind, because there'll be no reason for you. You're going along a flat, straight road. There's nothing in the way, and you suddenly jam on the brakes. It's just like, for goodness sake, it's not good.
Well, we're told that the next rewrite of Autopilot should hopefully
work that out. But I mean, those things, I love the fact that I'll get a notice on my app that just said there's a software update, and it does stuff. And I'll tell you, here's another frustration, which is now gone completely. I do have we're very blessed to have very fast Wi-Fi. There is Wi-Fi in the garage where we park the car. You can get a signal there. I can get it on my laptop. I can get it on a phone. I can go outside. I'm getting a Wi-Fi, clear, full Wi-Fi signal. The Tesla would not find it. The Model 3 would not find it. And I put the password in and it wouldn't do it. I did it so many times. And then suddenly, for no reason, it now always gets it. And I go, why have you done that? Why couldn't you have done that in the first place? That was incredible. So all the software updates, it was constantly telling me, there's a software update, connect to Wi-Fi. I can't!
We've had quite a few owners literally get a Wi-Fi router and put it next to the car.
Exactly. No, I ran Ethernet cables all round through the door, up the stairs, round the back, put it there. I put it on the bonnet. Still would not find it, would not see it. Swine.
So the next comment is, great presentation so far, but it's now time for someone to smoke some weed. So on that line, have you ever tried to interview Elon Musk?
No, I did meet him. I did meet him years ago, but no, I haven't. And I mean, here's the thing, and I don't want him to see this or hear about it. I would, if we got the opportunity, I would jump at it because I think he is the most extraordinary person. But I would love to interview some of the other people who work at Tesla. We would never be allowed. But I did interview Dermot. I think it's Dermot O'Connell, who I think does still work there. And I drove around Silicon Valley in a roadster with him, and he is an extraordinarily knowledgeable man about the energy matrix that we live in and how we could change it. And so there's some other amazing, people that work there. There is an attraction to that. But I don't think anyone else is ever allowed to speak. It's only Elon. But it would be amazing if we got the opportunity to do it. I can't quite see it happening now. I mean, when my conversation with Elon Musk was, Elon, this is Robert. Oh, how do you do? We shook hands. And he said, nice to meet you. And I said, it was very nice to meet you. He wasn't such a well-known figure then. This is probably more than 10 years ago. But that was our conversation, was probably 7 or 8 seconds. So I feel we're old mates.
Yeah. Well, someone in the comments said you should do Carpool with Elon.
Wouldn't that be cool? I know, exactly. Wouldn't that be great in a cyber truck?
Cyber truck, yeah. I've been in the cyber truck, and that thing is insane.
Oh, you have been in one, have you?
Yeah. It's,
wow.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. It's, next level. I think if we've got maybe the last couple of questions, what's your experience being with service with Tesla? Have you had many problems?
Actually, it has been. I haven't really had many problems, but it has been pretty good. But I mean, I probably. I don't know what it would be like now. So when I first got my Model S, there was quite I could tell there was a sort of thing going around with the people at Tesla that, Robert Llewellyn's got a Tesla or whatever. There was that kind. So I think I did get a bit of preferential treatment but I've not really needed stuff doing. I'm trying to think that's true. I had a new, which I think happened to quite a few people, a new drivetrain in the Model S, the rear axle and motor, because it started making a lot of noise. But I quite liked the noise. But they told me that it wasn't a good idea to keep driving it. I said, no, I'm happy with it. It wasn't upsetting. Yeah. It didn't sort of.
I remember having a loaner, and you think, that's an odd noise. Like,
yeah.
And then you're like, well, you can probably do a sound effect better than I.
Well, it was at low speed. It was kind of, and it was getting worse. It was getting louder and louder. But yeah. So they did replace. But I mean, the thing is, I took it down to, it was the service centre in Bristol. I took it down there, got my bike out the back, rode to work because we got an office there. Rode back, and they put a new axle on. It didn't cost me anything. It was still under warranty, I guess. And I can't imagine how much. I think that would be quite an expensive item. But anyway, yeah. So that's really the only thing I've ever had done. So yeah, I've not had a bad experience with it.
Right. And what are your thoughts on Model Y? Would you buy one? Do you think it's really going to change Tesla, certainly in the UK, maybe Europe?
I mean, I think it'll be a popular car because I think the one thing I suppose I might have been moody about if my kids were small is the boot of the Model 3 and not being able to see into it. So, I now kneel down on the gravel to look in to see if I've left anything in it because it's so deep and dark, you can't tell. So that side of it is not perfect. I would much rather have a hatch at the back. It's much more usable. But it's not that big a deal for me. And it's I find the size of the Model 3 really suits me. It feels narrower and lower and smaller and shorter, which it is. And the Model Y is bigger. The Model Y is getting close to a Model X. I mean, it's a big car because, again, it's a big car. And I just don't. So that's why I don't think I would get one. If they did a Model 3 minus or a Model 2 that was smaller than the Model 3, that would be very interesting. And it is that I can't help it. I'm slightly attracted to that. So one of the rumors that's very unsubstantiated is that they are developing a ID3R Volkswagen R. So like the Golf R. So a pokey 4-wheel drive, high performance ID3, which is sort of, then I go, can I have it in matte black with tinted windows?
And you go faster stripe, of course.
Just that stuff, because I had a Mark 1 Golf GTI. That was one of my first sort of not completely knackered cars when I was about in my 20s, and it had a thin red line down the side. Subtle. That was its go faster stripe. Yeah. But yes, no, I should. I'd love a Cybertruck. Yeah.
The Cybertrucks are pretty insane, and the Rivians as well. So we have a supplier supporter, which is Charger Quad Bikes. It's the electric quad bikes.
Yeah.
I think we reviewed.
We've been on them. Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, and could you maybe give us a bit more info on that?
Oh, well, I mean, it was a while ago we had to go on. They were just brilliant because I have ridden quads, in the past. Scrappy for years. There was a lot of quadding going on there. And they were so much, the electric ones were so much easier and nicer to ride. They were and they were clearly, they can be easily as powerful, if not more powerful than the combustion one. So they were fantastic. And I think they're doing all right, aren't they? I think they're still...
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, we've got an event for anyone that's interested on the 29th of October with them, just to sort of have a look. And
right.
Ideally, we'd like to all go there and have a play on them. But,
no, we were very lucky to get... Yeah, we did a bit... We were burning up around the fields. And it is interesting, because I've definitely... around here, there's a lot of farmers, and I've been on a quad bike with a load of kids on about years ago, through a field with cows in it, and the cows all freaked out and ran away, and I kept to the side so I didn't want to upset them. The quad bikes, we were riding right next to cows that were lying down chewing the cud. They didn't give a toss, they weren't bothered at all. So that side of it was nice. If you're not going fast, they're very, very quiet and peaceful. Yeah, no, they were nice.
So final question, I think, for the evening. If you could put a supercharger anywhere in the UK, where would you put it? Oh. Or do you not think you need one anywhere?
You probably don't need one, but it would be quite fun to put one outside 10 Downing Street, wouldn't it? Just so it was there. Because what the hell is going on? Why is the Prime Minister not in an electric car? He definitely should be. When the Prime Minister comes out and gets in the car, it's always some ugly, great, armoured, bloody, ridiculous thing. It is. I've actually driven one of the armoured diplomatic vehicles that the government have used. I think it was a second-hand one on the Rory Bremner show when this is when John Major was Prime Minister, and I was his driver. So we did this little shtick in the car with him looking at things out the window and being all John Major. He did a brilliant John Major, and we were waiting for the camera van to come and meet us in Westminster, and I was standing outside the car, and Rory was in the back dressed as John Major. Sunny day with the window down, and two ladies drove up in a nice car and said, "We're looking for the Royal Horticultural Hall. Could you tell us where it is?" And I did know where it was, and I went, "Straight down there, madam, left, and it's right in front of you. Can't miss it." And then they looked at Rory, and they they clearly really thought he was John Major. And I went, "It's all right, sir. You all right?" But that car weighs 4 tons. It looked like a Jag, but the windows were like that thick. The side windows, the windscreen was the glass. When you're in it, you could really tell it was very different, and it drove like a ship. It was so slow. puncture-proof tires, bomb-proof plating underneath, bulletproof side. Ridiculous. 4 tons. I don't know what the engine was. It was crazy. So they'd have to do that with the I-Pace. They have to beef it up.
Beef it up slightly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I don't know if there's any other sort of things you wanted to reference, but if not, we'll
well, the only thing, and Dan reminded me to say, so we're doing the drive-in cinema, and it's so frustrating. It's not inside; it's outside at Farnborough because we're not allowed to have it inside, which is that really got me. I was depressed the day we found that out. But next year we are doing Fully Charged Live outside, and I think we've got a good chance of this being in June. At Farnborough is a massive apron outside the hangar that we were going to be inside. So we probably will use some of the inside as well, inside the hall. But it's going to be a very big show outside. And there will be, it looks like, aeronautical technology on display in some way or another, because it is it's an airfield. It's a functioning airfield. And someone's just said, plug the funding and Patreon, which is very kind of you to suggest that. Because, yes, we are extremely reliant on our wonderful Patreon supporters to keep us going at the moment. So that is, I'm not suggesting any of you, because you've all been so generous already. I mean, what you did at the Fully Charged Live, what the Tesla Owners Club did there, was an amazing, if we had to pay to have hundreds of electric cars to drive people, it would have broken us. So it was an amazing privilege for us to have you do that. It was that really did have a big impact. And so, Farnborough next year is looking more hopeful now that we've decided to do that. And all that. What's really good is all the, I think they're called stakeholders in the correct corporate parlance, but the people who would have displays and things they're all really up for it, because they can, they've had a year when they can't launch their cars or their products or anything or show anybody anything. So I think there's a lot of enthusiasm to try and do that. And we're just hoping that by June next year, it'll all be lovely. We can all we can all hug each other again. I tell you what I don't miss. I will shut up soon. And it sounds rude and selfish, but it's random selfies. Fully Charged Live, it's absolutely fine. I don't want to be snotty about it, but on the street, it doesn't happen to me very often, but it does happen sometimes that someone will literally just walk up, put their arm around you and take a picture. No one's doing that at the moment. I have to say there's an element of relief in that. Anyway.
And we've also got an event, Supercharged 2021, which is in September next year as well. So we'd love to invite you along to that, whether you wanted to do, I don't know what we could come up with something.
Yeah.
But that probably is going to be the largest gathering of Tesla owners in the UK.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
All going planned, at least 400 owners ideally across.
Right.
And that's a Bicester heritage, so we've sort of all ready for that. We're planning stages for that, all being well.
Right.
So that'd be great to have maybe you and the team along.
Lovely. No, that's very kind. No, I'm looking for that. Would be great. Yeah.
So it'd be good fun. And so I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much, Robert, for joining us this evening. One final reminder, again, for this year's chosen charity, which is Mind, the mental health charity. So without these major events like we've been discussing this evening, we cannot raise the great funds that we sort of do, like we have done for the last 2 years at Fully Charged Live. I think last year we raised, 15 or 16,000 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing.
At Fully Charged Live for the Radio Flyer toy cars that go into children's hospitals and hospices, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, you should see some of the photos of these kids. Quite frankly, they're screwed. They're being given the worst hand in life, and for us to deliver a car and give them just 5 minutes of enjoyment is great. We've now sort of put that to one side whilst we're delivering more and more and more. But Mind is the charity that we sort of wanted to support. So if anyone would like to learn more, justgiving.com/Tesla Owners UK, and obviously Mind's website as well. So that's it. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. I've just seen some lovely messages that people are sending. It's very kind of you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Hopefully it worked all right for everyone, and we'll be having more events soon. So keep an eye on the website, on the Facebook group, and all the other places we are, Tesla Owners UK. And perfect.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
What's the statement? If you have been watching.
If you have been, thank you for watching. Great stuff. All right.
Good to see you all. Thanks a lot. Cheers.